Welcome back to the Hammered Leatherworks studio. Today we're going to make the everyday tote. The everyday tote will come to you packaged in a really heavy mailing tube so it can't get damaged along the way. You'll notice if you buy it in a store, you'll find this on the outside with the leather sample so you can choose your colour. So let's get started. Here's one I prepared earlier. I love a good pun. So in your kit you will find 8 precision cut pieces, instructions, the hardware you need, needle and thread. So inside your instructions, we're going to go exactly by the instructions today, and our first step is to get organised and make sure we have everything we need. So lay out pieces 1 to 8. So I'll pop these instructions up here. When you get your kit, all the pieces will have a sticker on them on the back suede side of what number piece they are. It's quite easy because they're stacked from lowest to highest. So this is piece 1. This is the front of the pocket. This is piece 2 that connects to the pocket. These go on top of piece 3, which is the main body front piece of the bag. This one here is piece 4. This is the internal pocket that goes on the inside of the bag, so it will go in there. Piece 5 is the flap. Piece 6 is the back main body of the bag. This one here. And then your handles are pieces 7 and 8. So to get started, we're going to need pieces 1, 2, 3 and 4. So I'm going to pop pieces 5 and 6 to one side. And here we have pieces 1, 2, 3, and this one here with the internal pocket is number 4. So let's get started. First thing we need to do is lay piece 1 on top of piece 2, lining up the holes in the centre. All of these pieces are precision cut with a laser, so they're going to line up very well the first time you do it. So I'm just going to set these pieces aside so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. So the first thing we're going to do is stitch the centre line in this to divide our pockets. I'm going to take our thread. When you receive your thread, it will be sort of all wound up, easy to undo. I'm just working from a cone today because that's what I've got handy. So we're going to sew our centre seam. So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. I pinch the end of my thread to thread my needle. Just makes it nice and flat to fit through the eye. If you haven't viewed our stitching video, please head to our YouTube channel or our website and take a look at it. It will really help you with teaching you how to saddle stitch and how to make those perfect looking stitches that will make your tote look so lovely when you're done. So we're about ready to start stitching now. We're going to start stitching from between the layers, coming up through the 3rd hole down. So we have 1, 2, 3. We're going to come between the layers and come up through the 3rd hole down. Now you need to leave a decent tail so you can get in there to tie it off with your hands. And now we're going to saddle stitch, which is as simple as up, down, and don't forget on your way back, make sure you go to the side of your threads and don't splice it. So now we've stitched every hole. We're going to complete this stitch by going through this hole and bringing our needle back up to the top. Now we're going to reinforce the last hole so it's nice and strong. So we're going to go up. Now we have 2 layers of thread in this second stitch down. We turn the work over. We're going to put the needle through just 1 layer through the hole, but through just 1 layer of leather, so we're coming up through the center where we started. There we go. We're going to tie our finishing knot, so just like your shoelaces, whatever goes over first goes under second. Trim the tails, and then we tuck them against the seam. There we go. You've now made the divided pocket that's going to go on the front of your tote. For the next piece, next step, which is number 3, we're going to need pieces 3 and 4. So that's the main front piece of your tote and the internal pocket. This step gets a little bit tricky because we're going to be going through a lot of layers of leather. So what we need to do is line up the holes on the front for the front pocket, and same with the pocket on the back. When you put the pocket on the back, you're going to put it so the suede sides are together. Okay, so there we go. Once again, we're going to measure our thread and prepare our needle. So we're going to go all the way around the outside this time. So we're going 1, 2, 3 sides, multiply that by 4, 1, that's 3 times, 1 more makes 4 times. Here we go, trim. So as you can see here, I have 4 times my length that I measured the first time. Okay. So we're going to pinch the end of the thread and thread our needle. And thread that through there. You'll definitely need 4 times your thread on this one because you are going through 4 layers of leather. So you can be a little bit generous with that. There's plenty of thread in the kit for you to be a little bit generous. Just remember not to go too crazy because you'll find it really hard to manage the really long length of thread if you do. So the instructions now say lay pieces 1 and 2 on top of 3. Piece 4 goes on the back with the suede sides together. Starting between piece 3 and 4, which is the internal pocket, we're going to come up from the 3rd hole down through the front. So we're going to go line up our pockets. 1, 2, 3. That's the hole we're going to come up through. There we go. Just as we did before, we're going to pull through. I'm going to turn this on its side so it's easier for me to hold and for you to see. We're going to leave a decent tail because we need to get in there to knot it up. And as you can see, I'm in the 3rd hole down. So our next stitch is going to be through the 4th hole down. This is where we're going to pick up the internal pocket. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get your first couple of stitches in on these really layered up seams, they stay together really well. So here we go. We're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Because you notice there's a half hole at the top there. All right. And the pieces will line up. So if you need to double check, you just make sure that when you hold the piece down over piece 3, that the holes on the bottom line up, and that means you're at the right spot for your top hole. So now we're going to saddle stitch all the way around and back again. There we go. So it is up, down, really simply. You find if you are struggling to keep all your pieces lined up, you can put a little bit of glue on each one of them to hold them in place, but you want to do that really sparingly. Avoid double-sided tape because it will stay sticky forever. So if you ever put a piece of paper in the pocket and it gets stuck, it's not coming out. So as you can see there, we've started our stitching both sides. This seam will take you a little bit of time, but have patience because it will look beautiful when you're done, and it's going to be seen all the time because it's right on the front of the bag. So make sure you pull your thread through quite firm. You don't want to pucker the leather, but you do want it firm. It will make it much easier on the way back when you're filling in the gaps with your saddle stitch, and it will also make for a really lovely appearance. It will have a really tidy stitch. So I'm just going to pause this here, work my way around, and I'll pick you up again when we've gone around the first time, so I can show you how to turn and come back again. So here we are. I've stitched all the way around from this side to the top here, and I've gone through the last hole. What we're going to do is come back the way we came. This is where you have to be careful that you go to the left or the right of the stitches that are already in the hole, because you don't want to put the needle through it. It won't look very nice. It also won't, splitting the thread like that will make it weaker. So I usually go left, right, and I'll show you how. What I mean by this is, so this stitch that's in this hole, I'm going to put the needle to the left of it. First one can be a little bit difficult. There we go. So the needle is going in to the left of the stitch that's in the hole. When I'm coming up the next stitch, I'm going to go to the right, as you can see. I'll just show you again. So I'm going to go down the left side of the stitch that's in the hole, and then I'm going to come up the right side. You can always think of it as bottom or top too, especially if you're holding your piece of work this way. You're going to the top, and then you're going to come up the bottom. And you'll notice that when you do this, you feel no resistance when you're passing the needle through the hole. When you put the needle through a stitch, like I've done there, can you just get nice and close to see if you can see that? Where are we? There we are. That's not good. So we're going to pull out, and we're coming up, so it means we're going to the bottom of the stitch. So I'm just going to pop the needle back in again. There we go. This time we're coming up under the stitch. So we're going coming up the bottom. I'm going to go to the top, and we're going to go to the bottom. You may even find that the return journey is faster than the way around the first time because your pieces are already brought together now. So it just makes it that little bit simpler. Alright. So I'm going to stitch this all the way around, and then I'll come back to you when I'm at this top corner and we're doing our reinforcing stitch. So here we are, we've come all the way back around, and we're coming towards the end of where we are stitching. So I'm going to make those last few stitches. Here we go. go. Okay, so we're going to go back down this hole. As you can see, we've filled all the stitches on this side. Turn it over, we've got just one empty stitch. So what we're going to do is go through that hole to complete the stitch. Now we have holes filled on both sides. We're going to go do our reinforcing stitch now. So we're going to go down. So we now have 2 layers of thread in that second hole down. Turn the work over. We're now going to go through just 1 layer of leather, so we come up between the layers where we started. So the needle is going to go through the 3rd hole down and come out the top there. Just going to pull on that. There we go. There we go. You'll notice that the 2 threads are slightly different colours. That's because this one's been through more of the holes, and because the holes are laser cut, there is some soot in there. We do our best to clean it out, but it will happen. Your hands will get a little bit dirty. So we're going to tie our finishing knot. One and 2. And trim and tuck. So you have now made the inside pocket of your bag, the outside pockets of your bag, including 2 segmented pockets in the front and 1 large one. So next step is step 4. We're going to add the flap to the front of the bag, which keeps the contents in your pockets nice and safe, even though they're on the outside. So they'll be nice and secure in there. So we're going to line the flap up with the holes on the front of the bag. Once again, we're going to measure our thread. 1, 2, 3, 4, and trim. And thread our needle. If you find it hard, don't forget to pinch the end to flatten out. It's where wax linens are really good. You give them a bit of a pinch and a pull. I like to twist as well. So in adding the flap, we've lined our holes up. We're going to start between the layers, coming up in the 3rd stitch across. So I'm going to pick up just the flap piece and come up the 3rd hole. Pulled all the way through. Oopsies. There we go. Once again, leaving a nice tail. Now pop the pieces one on top of the other, making sure all the edges line up. And we're going to go into hole number 4. And do exactly the same as when you stitched around the other pocket. We're going to stitch all the way to the end and back again. What's really cool about this one is it doesn't have the holes on the ends of the flaps, so you're literally going to go to the hole and come back again to the other hole. You don't overstitch the edge. Now we're back to our finishing point, so we're going to finish those final couple of stitches. Just as we did on the pocket, we've got all our stitches on the front. We just need to complete this stitch on the back. So now we have stitches in all the holes on both sides. So we're going to start our reinforcing stitch. So there's now 2 layers of cotton in the 2nd hole across. Turn the work over. You're going to go into the 3rd hole along through just the one layer of leather, coming up in between the flap and the body of the bag where we started. Give it a bit of a tug. So now we're going to tie our knot. So I'm going left over right, which means I will now go right over left. There we go. And trim. And tuck. Just a bit of a press on top of the knot. And congratulations, you've now finished the front of your bag. Now is where it gets exciting, because we're going to start sewing the bag back and the bag front together. So to make sure that we have beautiful seams, what we're going to do is the front piece of the bag is going to wrap over the back piece of the bag. So this is piece 6, as we talked about. This is the back piece of the bag. This and your handles should be all you have left at this point. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay piece 3 over piece 6 with the right sides facing up, lining up the holes at the bottom. This first seam at the bottom here can be a little bit tricky, but take the time and do it right, because it will be the one thing that is going to hold your belongings in your bag very securely. So we're going to measure our thread. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Here's my needle. There we go. Oops. Try again. There we go. So things change a little bit when we start down here, because we don't stitch through these last holes. They're going to be sewn when you sew the corner. So we're only going to sew from the second hole in to the second hole in on the opposite side. So when we're starting our seam, we're going to come up the 4th hole across instead of the 3rd like we normally would. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the hole we're going to come up. We're going to leave a decent tail again, but we're going to pop it inside the bag. It'll make it easier to tie off at the end, and it means you'll have no tails hanging out the finished side. So now we need to stitch the 2 layers together. So I'm just going to spin this around so it's easier for me. I find it easier to hold my work with my left hand and sew with my right. And now we're going to do exactly the same as we did before. Up, down, matching the holes as we go. You'll find that dragging the needle across the back side of the leather will help you locate your hole. If you're finding it a little bit hard and you're constantly looking, you can just pick up the edge of the leather like I am there with my thumb, just to find that bottom hole. You want to make sure that you're going up and down through your holes and not going around your layers at all. This is the best way to keep them secure and strong. So we're going to sew our last hole is going to be the second one in from the end, this hole here. Not this hole, this one here. So we have stitched to the end, going only into the second last hole. There's no thread in that between that last hole. We're going to pick that hole up when we sew the corners together. So we just want to go to the second last hole. And I've started working my way back. We're coming to the end of the row of stitching now. Get a little bit harder at the end here because obviously your end isn't secured yet because we haven't tied our knot because we haven't finished our seam. So just hold it together with your fingertips. Make those last few stitches. Oops. Coming up that one. There we go. So same as the other end, we're only going to go into the second last hole. So here we go, we're going to come up it now. So that is going to be the last hole we sew through. So we're going to do our we've filled all the holes on this side. We're going to turn the project over to the other side. We're going to finish this stitch by going back through this hole here and do our reinforcing stitch. So we're going to put 2 layers of thread in that second last stitch, and then we're going to put the needle back through the hole, but only going through 1 layer of leather, not all the way through, and coming up where we started, where that initial thread piece is. And we're going to tie a knot. Left over right, right over left. There we go. Trim and tuck. Tuck. There we go. Give it a bit of a push on the knot to flatten it. There we go, you've just completed the bottom seam of your bag. It should be almost there now. I'm on the home stretch, only a few more to go. So now our bag is really going to start looking like a bag because we're going to start working on the side seams. So when we do the side seams, we're going to fold piece 3 over piece 6. It's going to give us a nice flat seam on the side, really decorative stitching. So we're going to start by measuring our thread. One, 2, 3, 4. So now you should be moving on to the second page of the instructions that come in the kit. I'll just show you. So you just flick the little page here over. So moving on to the side seams, wrap piece 3 over the top of the side of piece 6. Start stitching between pieces 3 and 6, coming up from the 3rd hole down from the top edge. Stitch down to the second last hole, do not stitch through the last hole. So we're going to repeat exactly what we did on the bottom seam. Just going to get this needle threaded first. Oh, no, try the other end. Flatten. And thread, there we go. Twist. So the instructions tell us to start from the 3rd hole down from the top edge. 1, 2, 3. We're going to come up that one there. Once again, leaving a nice tail, tucking it inside the bag. Now we're going to, as you can see here, I'm wrapping the pocket piece over the back piece. as you can see there. Now we do as we did with the bottom seam, we stitch all the way down to the second last hole and back again. Oops. Just going to turn this the right way for me. Sorry guys. There we go. If you're finding it a bit hard to keep your seam together, what you can do is whack a bulldog clip. Probably not a paper clip because it'll scratch the leather, but you can pop a bulldog clip on each end. It would help hold the seam in place for you while you get stitching. The only thing to be careful of is not catching your tail like I've done there. There we go. Pull that back out. So we're going to go up and down all the way to the end again. So I'm going to leave you with this, just hit pause until I'm back up the top again. So here we are, we're back up the top of our seam. This is the side seam. We haven't stitched through that bottom hole, just like we did at the base seam. We're going to finish off the top of this now. So I'm going to go through my last couple of holes. There we go. And complete the stitch. Turn it the other way. Put the needle through to complete the stitch. Now we're going to do our reinforcing stitch. So we're going to go back down that hole there. There we go. Now we have 2 layers of thread in the second last hole. Turn the bag through, same as we've done before, through that hole through just the 1 layer of leather, coming up the inside where we started, tying our knot. And trim. And tuck. And I like to give where the knot is a little squeeze. There you go. You've finished the first side of your bag. You're looking like this. So now we're going to do the other side. So we need to measure our thread again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Threading our needle. Pull. There we go, and twist. Now we're going to be starting in the same way. So we're going to come up the 3rd hole down. There we go. Leaving a decent tail. And now we're going to wrap the front piece over the back piece, lining up our holes. There we go. Oh, just pulled my tail through a bit then. Pull it back. The reason we start in the 3rd hole down is because when we are finishing off the end, you don't want that doubled up stitch to be right on the end hole. It's not as secure because it can't lean against itself. That's why we start from the 3rd hole down, because that's where we finish. So we're going to do the same as we did on the other side. We're going to stitch all the way down to the 2nd last hole and back again. I'm going to hit pause now, and I'm going to pick you up once I've gone to the bottom and come back up again. So here we are, we've stitched all the way down the other side, not through the last hole, just the second last hole, and back up to the top again. Now we're going to do our reinforcing stitch and finish this seam. So we're going to complete this stitch by going back down through the hole. Now we have all stitches filled on this side. We're going to do the same on the inside. Now we have all stitches filled on the inside and the outside. We're going to do our reinforcing stitch, so we're going to go back down the second hole, and then we're going to go to the inside, and we're going to go down that third hole down again, only through the one layer of leather coming up between the pieces. There we go. We're going to tie our knot. 1, 2, trim, tuck, and press. There we go. And you will notice now your bag is really starting to look like a bag. It's got sides and a bottom. Our next step is to move on to step 8. This is our last step before we put the handles on. What we're going to do is to stitch up the corners. So you're going to line up the center of the seam with the center of the seam on the other side. So it looks like this. We need to measure our thread to sew from this corner to that corner, and we're going to cut 2 lengths that long because we need to do both corners. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that makes 1, and we're just going to cut another one to the same size. Thread the needle. Now this seems a little bit different from the rest. What we're going to do, once you've lined up your pieces and you've got your thread ready to go, we're actually going to come up on the bottom edge of the bag. This is the bottom edge. There's our side. 1 hole off center. Because what's going to happen is our knot is going to hide in this gap created by the layering up of the pieces of the leather. So now we're going to saddle stitch as we did before, going through every hole to the end and back again. Oops. Remembering you're up and down to keep your stitches looking lovely. There we go, we're heading over that part where we started now. Make sure we pull nice and firm. There we go, we're back where we started. So we're going to make sure all the holes are filled on both sides. We're all filled on this side, and we're all filled on that side. So now we're going to do our reinforcing stitch. So we're going to go back 1, 2 layers of thread on this side, over, same as we did in the middle. We're going to go through just 1 layer of leather coming up in the middle where we started. That's our reinforcing stitch. We're going to tie our knot, pulling nice and firm on this one because you want the knot to tuck into the gap. Cut some nice short tails, and then we're going to just, using your nails or your needle, we're going to tuck that knot in to the gap there. There it goes. And then when you squeeze, it will disappear. Perfect corner. Now we're going to do the same to the other side, using the piece of thread we cut before, threading our needle, oops, other end, there we go. So we're going to repeat what we did on the other side. So we're going to squeeze, line up the ends of the leather. So there are 2 pieces inside, 2 pieces outside. We're going to come from the middle, going across the heavier part first. We're going to reinforce that last stitch again. So here we go. Putting 2 layers of thread in this layer, 2 layers of thread in the other, and coming up through the center again through just 1 layer of leather. Nice firm pull, tying your knots, trim, and tuck, and squeeze. You have now finished the body of your tote bag. There we go. Last step, attaching the handles. You've got 2 handles in your pack. How they work is you slot the handle through the slots at the top of the bag, and we're going to weave them. Let's do it on this one. Weave through the bottom. There we go. And then we're going to line up the hole that's in the strap and in the body of the bag. When you bring your strap over, you want to pull it up the way you want it to look. You don't want to twist it. So as you can see, I've pulled mine out nice and straight, wrapped it over, and I'm going to weave it through the other side. I'm going to line up those holes again just by pulling it through the woven part of the body of the bag. There we go. In your kit you got screws and posts. What we do is we take the part that has the receiver for the screw on it. Looks a little bit like a washer, and we're going to push that in to the hole on the front side of the bag. Maybe a little firm because we've layered the leather up in weaving it. There we go, click. We're going to do the same for the other side. If you haven't quite got your holes lined up perfectly, this will be difficult, so try your best to line them up as best as you can. There we go. These screws are a flathead. You can just wind them in with your fingers. You don't have to use a screwdriver. You just want to be gentle, just ease them in. But I'm going to use a screwdriver so you can actually see what I'm doing and my hands aren't in the way. You want to wind them in till they're firm. There we go. And we'll do the other side. I'll try my best to show you with my fingers. No. Screwdriver it is. There we go. That's the first side. We're going to turn the bag over and weave the handles through again for the other side. There we go, just slide that up. Take our handle over, weave it in, and out the other side. There we go. Same as before, take the post section that looks a bit like a washer, and you're going to push that into the hole. So if your holes aren't lined up exactly, this will be a little bit difficult. There we go. Just give it a bit of a wiggle. There it goes. You can hear it go click. Just as before, we're going to pop the screws in. If you don't have a screwdriver handy and you're finding that your fingers are quite sore from the stitching, what you can use is you can use a credit card works, or even a butter knife if you have to, but screwdriver is definitely the safest way to go. There we go, put the last one in now. Here we go. And we're in, we're done. That's it. You have just made the Hammered Leatherworks everyday tote bag. If you want to give your edges a bit of a sheen, you can put a bit of a beeswax rub on there. Otherwise, they'll just wear naturally with the bag. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to take a picture. We'd love for you to tag us on Instagram or post on our Facebook wall. You could even join the Facebook group if you get stuck, and we're there to help you out. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to find us on social media.